record. All right. Welcome all to 49 Fridays. This is our weekly meetup for entrepreneurs and innovators. And today I'm really excited to have Laura Musel here from Cool Revolution PJs to tell us her story. And our paths have crossed over the years as Laura has done various sort of public relations roles and had worked for the AIA chapter in Indianapolis, and we have some mutual friends. So this feels like Old Home Week. I want to start by saying thank you to our sponsor, Old National Bank. We've been grateful to have their financial support for this program. And I want to let you all know that next week, we're going to take a hiatus the day after Thanksgiving, and we'll be back on December 4th. And we've got a really fascinating company called Deep Word, and it's artificial intelligence and video. So be on the lookout for a notification about that. It's a Bloomington-based tech company that's doing some really innovative things. So Laura, why don't we get started with you?
Okay, very good. Thank you all for getting up on a Friday morning to hear about pajamas. Am I the only one wearing pajamas?
Come on, confess.
Well, I want to tell you a little bit about Cool Revolution and how we got started, and then, if I like it when people ask questions. So if anyone has questions, feel free to ask away. But Cool Revolution began, I like to say, with a whole lot of sweat and some text messages. So I was in my early 50s in 2018 and woke up with drenched in sweat and thought, oh my gosh, this is what people have been talking about, are night sweats. And I did what probably a lot of people do. I started complaining in a series of text messages to my friends and said, oh my God, this is what's just happened to me. Has anyone else experienced this? And that text message began a whole day of discussion between four of us about night sweats and hot flashes and menopause, and how much none of us really knew about what was going to be happening to us as we aged. And at one point I said, you know what, there needs to be pajamas for this. And another friend said, well, if you start a pajama company, I want to work for it. And so about a year later, we launched Cool Revolution PJs. And the whole goal is to offer pajamas for women who are hot sleepers, especially those going through perimenopause and menopause. And we learned early on that in the year 2020, there are about 20 million women who hit menopause, which that average age is 51. And that's a lot of women and a lot of sweating. And we learned that women had no idea what they were supposed to wear. We talked to women who were wearing their workout clothes to bed. We talked to a woman who in the middle of the night got so frustrated, she took out a pair of scissors and cut her pajamas off. We talked to women who had to change. They were changing their pajamas in the middle of the night. And there was just so much frustration about it. So that was our goal. And our goal was just to make pajamas that were for everybody. So we started with 4 pieces. We started with the t-shirt and pants, a tank top and shorts, all in black. And that's all we started with. And we started with a website and no product. And in the spring of 2019, we did pre-sales online, and we thought, all right, here we go. We're going to see if anyone will buy these. And people did. And so we had them made. And I'll tell you, I'll kind of tell you about the company, and then I'll go backward about how we got here. But now we offer t-shirts, pants, tanks, shorts, capris, and we just introduced night shirts because we heard from a whole bunch of women who wanted night shirts. So we said we can do that too. So here are just some examples. This is our photographer, actually, that we found. She's in Franklin, not far from you guys. Cindy Johnson. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's a boudoir photographer. We just launched red pajamas in time for the holidays. And we just wanted to show women that you can be comfortable and you can wear. We also know that women wear pajamas not just at night, but a lot of us put our pajamas on early in the evening, and you want to wear something that you feel comfortable with. So if someone comes over, you're fine. If you have kids at home and they have friends over, you feel fine about it. So that was one of our goals. Um, our other The big goal was not even just what the products were, but it was trying to figure out whether pajamas really could help with night sweats. And we talked to a woman named Janet Carpenter, who is with Indiana University School of Nursing, and she has studied menopause for 20 some years. And it just coincidentally, I have a friend who had written about her, and she said, Laura, you have got to go meet Janet. And I did. And the first thing Janet said to me was, if you are going to do this, you've got to use a fabric that is a natural fiber. You can't use a synthetic fiber, which is like polyester, ironically, which is what most pajamas are made of. And, while cotton is a natural fiber, all cotton pajamas, the problem with that is it absorbs sweat, but it doesn't dry sweat. And it just, how an old t-shirt feels if it gets sweaty. Yeah, it's not good to sleep in. So we found this bamboo fabric, and bamboo, I don't know if anyone's familiar with it, but what we learned was bamboo is just naturally moisture wicking. It's naturally cooling. It's breathable. It dries quickly. And I had no idea. And I'll tell you, I was a real skeptic when I heard this, but it's also antibacterial. And a lot of companies will put some kind of coating on pajamas or men's t-shirts. I've seen this happen. Well, they put a coating on it to make it antibacterial. Well, what happens is, one, it feels waxy, and the other thing that happens is it washes after like about 20 washes. It washes off. So we love that about the bamboo, because we heard from so many women who said, you have night sweats, and then you wake up and then you even feel bad about yourself because you smell too. It's like this double whammy. So the other thing we did, the fashion industry likes to use models who are a size 2, and then they design something for a size 2 model. 67% of women wear a size 14 or higher, yet the fashion industry designs for a much different size. So we decided we were not going to do that. We were going to just find a normal average woman. She was in her mid 50s, late 50s. And we asked her to be our fit model. And we modeled the pajamas after her body. She wears a size like 12, 14. And that's how we designed the pajamas. We wanted a V-neck because it's really universally flattering to everybody. We know that as women age, often women gain weight around the midsection. So we wanted the pajamas to feel like they're more fitted up here, because I don't know if people have bought pajamas before and then they feel like you're wearing this giant box. I have this problem. Maybe it's just me, but it feels like they're just really boxy. And so we wanted them to feel fitted up here, but then flare a little bit. We wanted them to be longer. We wanted them so that if you bend over, you're not showing everything. So that was a goal of ours. None of this stuff was in a book about how to design anything. We just kind of made that up. The other thing with the pants, we heard early on, we had a focus group, and if you give women some wine and ask them some questions, they will tell you lots and lots of information, things you don't even want to know. But everyone said, why can't we get pajamas that have pockets? We need more pockets. So all of our pants and our nightshirts have pockets. And we made sure that the pockets were deep enough that they could hold a mobile device, because that's why people wanted pockets. So early on, we would put our phones in the pockets, and we would sit down and we would do different activities to see if you were walking around, if the phone stayed in the pocket. that was our scientific study. Yeah, so that's what the pants look like. As I mentioned, our target audience is women who are in perimenopause, women in menopause, because once you're in menopause, I have learned 75% of women suffer from night sweats. That's just a huge demographic of people who are sweating. And then just hot sleepers. We've heard from a lot of women who have medical conditions who have told us, you know, they're going through chemotherapy, or they have endometriosis, or they have other health issues that also cause hot flashes, and they've been buying our pajamas. So it's not just for menopause, but that was our focus. And it was really important to us that we stayed very focused on this niche audience, because we were afraid if we made it too broadly that we would lose out. And frankly, there are lots of places you can get pajamas. I mean, you can go to Walmart and get a pair of pajamas. And so we needed something to, we needed a niche audience that we could market to. So a lot of people ask us this question. This is my business partner, Mindy Ford. How does a realtor, which is what my full-time job is, and an ad executive enter the fashion industry? So we get this question a lot from people about, oh, did you guys have a background in fashion? Frankly, Mindy and I can barely put an outfit together without consulting our daughters. So we had no experience in fashion. But what I wanted to do was talk just a little bit about how then did we do this? And I want to say that Mindy and I were not looking for a side job. We both have full-time jobs. We both have successful careers. So it wasn't like we were sitting around thinking, hey, what can we do to start a business? This just all happened very organically, which is kind of cool. The first thing we did was a whole bunch of research. And that research started that very first day when I sent the text message to my friends. I just started Googling online about pajamas for night sweats and what do people do when they have night sweats, all that kind of stuff. And I would find pajamas, but then I found pajamas that frankly were very, they look like pajamas my grandma used to wear. And I just didn't want to wear those kind of pajamas. And my friends, as we talk about, we're like, we don't want to wear old lady looking pajamas. We don't want to wear grandma pajamas. And I'm a grandma and I don't want to wear them. But, then we also found some pajamas that were out there and they were cute. And then we discovered, well, they are cute, but they only go up to a size large. Now, which is great for everybody who's up to a size large. Unfortunately, I wear a 2X. And so that made it even more difficult. And like I said, 67% of women wear a 14 or larger, yet the pajamas out there were not made for women who have any size at all. So that's kind of where we decided, you know what, there really is an audience out here. The next thing we did, we just asked tons and tons of questions. And this may have been the coolest part of the beginning of this research and this journey for us, because every single person we talked to said, oh my gosh, this is a great idea. And you know who you should talk to? And almost every single time that happened. And I think it gave us a lot of confidence in the human race sometimes when we need it, where people were like on the sidelines as our cheerleaders saying, hey, have you thought of this? Hey, I know someone who works in textiles, or hey, I know a menopause expert. And so we just continued to ask questions. We talked to entrepreneurs who had started a retail line. Mindy and I went with her on a business trip to Denver, and we went into some pop-up shops, and then we just called these companies that were startups and talked to them about how they got started. And I think that's one of the things, we just weren't afraid to ask questions, even if they were dumb questions. And we also were propelled by the fact that people told us this was a good idea. The next thing, we decided we were not going to quit, even if things looked bad. And I mean, sometimes things got really bad. So like I mentioned, we have no experience in design. Now, I was in 4-H and I did take sewing, so I know how to sew a little bit, but I am not an expert. But someone told us about a woman who was a wannabe fashion designer. So we hired her to design our first pajamas. And it was a train wreck. So she designed this top, and then we had someone make the top based on her pattern, and I put it on and I didn't even know what I was wearing. I didn't know whether it was like a slinky nightgown thing. I didn't know. I mean, the V-neck was like somewhere over here and the armholes went clear. I mean, it was horrible. And so we were so frustrated because we'd worked so long with her on trying to come up with a design. And we just took a breath and said, okay, wait a minute. We're designing pajamas. We're not designing ball gowns or wedding dresses. This can't be that difficult. So Mindy and I sat at my dining room table and we got a whole bunch of pajamas and t-shirts, and we put them on and we were like, okay, this is what we like about this one. This is what we don't like about this one. We measured arm lengths. We measured everything. And Mindy is a totally different size than me. And we thought, if we can come up with a pajama pattern that we both like, we're going to have a winner here. So we just sketched out pajamas, and our pattern ended up looking like this. And my husband's a little more artistic than I am. And so he took our chicken scratches and made it look into it like a top. But so we ended up designing them ourselves, and we gave them to a pattern maker that we found in Arcadia, Indiana. From this, she made a pattern for us, and we would just tell her, hey, we want this V-neck to be X number of inches, and we want the sleeves to be this long, and we want this kind of flare. And that's what she did. So yeah, common sense can go a long way, we decided. Our other formula, I think, was to say rules are meant to be broken. And just because people, I don't know if anyone online's ever worked in the fashion industry, but our experiences, they're not real welcoming. And so they would not talk to us. Fabric mills wouldn't talk to us. We could hardly get anybody to talk to us. And then when we would, they would say, well, this is how it's done. And finally, we just said, look, that's not how we're doing this. They would say, yeah, we don't use contracts. Everything is just based on a handshake. And we're like, no, we're not doing it that way. Here's how we're going to do it. And so I think we went back to what makes sense. We asked a whole bunch of questions. And if we didn't like the way someone told us, it had to work, we were okay to break the rules a little bit. And so far that's worked. We use a manufacturing company in Chicago. They're just a little shop at the front. They look like a dry cleaner, alterations. And then in the back, it's like you open this curtain, and in the back, there are all these seamstresses. I don't know, maybe 10 or so seamstresses who are sewing all different kinds of things. And so that's who makes our pajamas. The next thing, and this is hard. This was hard for both Mindy and I, but you have to brag a lot, and you have to tell people how great your pajamas are. And that's hard to do about yourself. And I have a background in PR, and it's the hardest thing is to market yourself. But we did. And we started telling everyone we knew and about our pajamas. And we were in the Indy Star and Inside Indiana Business. And from the Star article, the Chicago Sun-Times picked us up. And then USA Today picked us up. We were just in the Reader's Digest gift guide. So we've been in lots of publications. Oh, and Woman's World. I don't know if you can see the Woman's World. Whoops. One, but I went back. I went the wrong way. Sorry. We were in Woman's World, and I cannot even tell you how many sales we got from that magazine, but they did a story on us. And the sales we basically sold out of everything and had to hurry up and have a whole bunch more stuff made. So that was a real pivotal point for us in February of this year. The other thing we've noticed that you have to, it's easy to get in this this trap of, okay, now what are we doing? What are we doing? And just focusing on the to-do list. And we've been very conscientious about celebrating successes, even little successes that we've had. I mean, I remember the day we finally found a manufacturer. I mean, we took a minute just to celebrate the fact that what road we'd been down and how far we had come. And I think it's important to celebrate those successes along the way. And I also think the other thing we continue to do is ask what's next, not just what do we have to do now and what's on our to-do list for this week, but where are we going to be next year? Where are we going to be the year after that? And what's our end goal? And that's something that we continue to evaluate and talk about, so we know what we're working toward. Yeah, so that's our story. And I am happy to answer any questions people have.
I love your story. I think it's great.
Thank you.
And I love that you put pockets in the pajamas. Am I the only one who tries to carry their phone in like their waistband?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
What questions do you all have?
This is Jane. I don't know that I have a question, but I just want to tell Laura, you have a great presentation style. You're so easy to listen to.
Oh, thank you.
Your slide presentation was spot on. I mean, each slide was simple and it told a story all by itself. So thank you for that. And then the other thing I want to say is I have 3 sisters and tons of girlfriends and daughters and daughters-in-laws, and you just helped me with my entire Christmas program.
Oh, I love it.
So
I love it.
I'm really, really grateful, Laura. You did a great job. And I'm just a little over 70, and I can just add, and I'm not a menopause expert and I'm not in the medical field at all, but 3 of my sisters are. And menopause can last, or night sweats relating to perimenopause or menopause can last years and years and years.
Mhm.
And when I was approaching 45 or 50 and started having night sweats, and I told my older sister, who specializes in women and the aging process,
Okay.
I said, so will this last a year or 2? She said, oh, yeah. She said, this can last many, many years, like
Many
10
years.
years, 50. I mean, it covers the gamut. So I think your product is going to be around a very long time, Laura. And
Thank you.
It's wonderful. I haven't tried them yet, but I think if anybody needs to buy me a gift, I'll certainly give them your after I buy myself something. Anybody else can buy me something off of your website as well, which I've already checked out. It's awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Got it.
Laura, tell us about the price point and how to determine it.
Well, from we looked at research and what other places were charging, and then we had to look at what our costs were. And it was important to us that we not sacrifice quality with the fabric, because we knew the fabric was everything. If the fabric didn't work, people wouldn't buy. And it's not, the fabric is expensive. So, yeah, we base the price kind of what is the market? What do we think the market's going to bear? But how do we do this so we can be in business? So they range in price from $42 for the tank top to $65 for the nightshirt.
I don't think that's outrageous.
No, we know our market is not someone who is looking for a discount on a pair of pajamas, a 2 for $15 pair of pajamas at Walmart. That's just not our market. It's someone who they're buying the pajamas because they want to feel good in them and they're going to help them sleep better. We have sold pajamas to someone in every state in the country. And about 25% of our people have become repeat buyers.
Are you doing that fulfillment yourself?
Yeah.
You have a bedroom somewhere with pajamas?
Yeah,
at the
so
ceiling?
we're both, yeah, Mindy, when her son moved out and she said she's making that the pajama room. Excuse me. And so Mindy is, she does all the fulfillment.
That must be a huge job. How many hours a week?
I don't know. So we're hoping, I mean, we've talked to some other, we've had other people contact us to see if they would partner with us, and there are options that we could do fulfillment different ways. So we've looked into, okay, when we get to a certain point, how can we do that?
I wanna, does someone else have a question?
Yeah, hi, good morning, everyone. It's Ruth Aguiloso with Women's Financial Empowerment Group. Laura, I just want to say that you made a really good point just now about your target audience or your target consumer, because I think a lot of small business owners get caught up in that, oh, people tell them, oh, that's too expensive, or oh, whatever. And so it's great that you've identified that, and because I'm learning that is key, because you know what, you can sell a $5 cup of cocoa and it tastes really, really great, and some people will not buy it. You can sell a dollar, you can sell it for $1 and people won't buy it. It just depends on who is going to do the shopping, what they're looking for. So I think that you will definitely make plenty of sales if you stick within your market. So thank you for the presentation, and thank you for
Thanks.
mentioning that. I just wanted to highlight that. Have a great day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Laura, I have a question about your name and your brand mark.
Okay.
How did you get to this identity?
Um, coming up with a name was hard. And we worked with someone who does branding to come up with the name. So the name of the company is Cool Revolution. And the reason being, we wanted it to be something that was cool, but we didn't want to be Cool Revolution PJs in our name in case we ever branched out beyond pajamas, which is, one of our goals is to maybe be able to offer clothing for workout or for just day wear, because we hear from so many women who, talk about they don't know what to wear to work. You have to layer. And I just think there's a need for that and a market for that. So that was a name. It was just a name, and it just seemed like it fit who we wanted to be. And we wanted to be, I will say, Janet Carpenter, the IU nurse, had some really insightful information. She said, a generation ago, women, like my mother's age women, wouldn't talk really about menopause, and they didn't share stories about it. It was just something that happened and they tried to keep it hidden. Or they would, Menopause the musical, if anyone has seen that. And they would joke about it, and it was like a big joke. But then Janet, who's around the same age I am, said, our age women, we want to be informed about our health, what's happening with our healthcare and what's happening to our bodies. And yes, we can joke about it, but it's really not a joke. It's serious. And we want to be open with it, and we shouldn't have to hide the fact that you're going through this stage of your life. So that was something we talked to the designers about. That's kind of who we were going after. We didn't want it to be funny. We didn't want it to be dire. I mean, it's just a part of life. But we also wanted women to feel confident in who they are, regardless of what stage of life they're in.
Great. And the brand mark?
It was the same kind of thing. And I know that ironically, it's a freelancer. And initially we were only going to use women to help us, but we knew this freelancer who was really good with logos, and he was a guy, and we explained all this. I mean, you should see the guys' faces when we would talk to them about explaining all this. they were like, oh my God. One guy was like, oh my gosh, I now know what's wrong with my wife. Thank you. I now know what's happening. But we told him the same thing. I mean, he did more of the like at not, more of the night sweat kind of thing. And he just gave us examples, and we just liked the way it looked modern and clean. And that's kind of what we want to be.
I'm curious who that is.
Paul Wilson.
Paul Wilson. Okay. One of the questions we often ask entrepreneurs is, once you've identified the problem, why were you uniquely qualified to solve it? So will you talk about that a little bit? Because as you said, you didn't have a background in fashion.
We don't have a background in fashion, but we both have a background in marketing. And I think it was just one of those things that was at the right time for us. We both were empty nesters, and it just seems something. We both are very big in trying to and doing things in our lives that help other people. And it was something we were passionate about. And we thought, if we can come up with this right design, we know we could market it to people. And we have learned that one of the problems and the challenges that people who go into fashion that they have is their ability to market and to be realistic of who their audience is. And we felt confident in understanding who our audience is because we are the audience. And we felt confident in being able to market it. And then I think it goes back to, we were just passionate about seeing if we could make this work. And I will say we both have full-time jobs. This is still very much a side hustle for us, and hopefully that'll change. But, we're in like a year and a half. So I think we're on the right trajectory.
So with your marketing background, how are you getting the word out? We saw the examples of earned media, but are you also investing in advertising and boosting on Facebook and social media?
So we've done Facebook advertising with not a lot of success. And we just this week are going to start a new a Google ad campaign.
Just now.
Like it's going to start. We did one early on, and it was okay. But the other thing we realized, at some point you have to hire people who know what they're doing. You can't be a do-it-yourselfer. And I sometimes struggle with, I'm very much a do-it-yourselfer, and I'm like, I can figure this out. It can't be that hard. And I don't want to spend the money to do something, but at certain points, I think you have got to invest in expertise.
Yep.
And while I have a background in media relations, we about 6 months ago hired someone to help us with media relations because we just couldn't do it all.
Yep. Other questions? Jane?
Hey, I have a question.
Oh, go ahead. Who's speaking?
This is Naman Kothari.
Hi.
Hey, thank you, Laura, for talking through, your whole journey. I was and especially I was intrigued about how you talked about your design iterations and how it didn't work and how you
Naman,
put the table.
Naman, can you speak up a bit? It's a little hard to hear you.
Hey, is it better now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so I was saying that it was really interesting how you talked about your design iterations, that how you got to the table and improved the initially crappy design and how it worked out. So my question is around that, like, did you have to iterate your designs after that? And how did you go through the whole process? Did you receive feedback from your customers, and how has the product evolved from your first design to what it is right now?
Okay, that's a good question. So yeah, what we did, I'm sorry. What we did, we found a sample maker and pattern maker, and we had her make a pair of pajamas in all 6 sizes. We offer sizes small to 3X. So we had her make a pair of pajamas in each size, and then we had we called it a fit party, and we had people come over, and again, you give people wine and ask them and food and asked them for their opinions. And we just had them try on pajamas and they would model them around, and we asked them to sit down and got feedback. And from there, we made a few tweaks, but not a lot. Our early pair of pants, we had a drawstring in it. And when we did the testing, we had a really, really good comment from somebody who said, no drawstrings, because as women get older, you have to go to the bathroom more often in the middle of the night. And the last thing you want to do is mess around with a drawstring. And so we were like, you know what? We hadn't thought about that. So we got rid of the drawstring. That was probably the biggest thing we changed. And then the way the process works, because we had no idea how this worked, I just thought you just have someone make the pajamas. But the sample maker sent the finished samples to a pattern grader in Chicago. We found her in Chicago. And she grades the patterns so that they're sized, so she could do the sizes. And then she takes the patterns, has the patterns printed, and they go to a guy named Pastor who has a cutting business in his basement in Chicago, and he cuts the fabric. And then he takes all the cut fabric to David, who does the sewing.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Laura. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Thank you.
I think Jane has another question or comment.
Yeah, Laura, can you talk about, have you ever asked for any investors, or would you even like to talk about that?
So we have talked about investors, and initially we decided, all right, here's how much money I'm willing to invest in this. And it's all self-funded right now. And we got advice from people. We went to SCORE. Is everyone familiar with SCORE?
Oh, yeah. SCORE works out of the chamber office if anyone wants to have some firsthand experience with SCORE.
Oh, okay. So we worked with SCORE in Indianapolis, but then we also went to Bloomington because there's a woman there, Babette, and I can't think of her last name, but she was in the fashion industry in New York and has retired and now works at IU in their fashion department. And so we consulted with them. And initially they said, try to do this self-funded if you can in the beginning. And I don't know. It's interesting you asked that question, because Mindy and I just started talking about investors again a few weeks ago, because it may be something we need to do in order to leverage, just really to get the funds to really market it to the masses.
Okay.
So we haven't done that yet. We've had a couple people ask us about it, but we haven't gone there yet. But what are you thinking that's something we should think about?
Well, I have some familiarity with how that works. Charlie works with us. My husband works with a tech startup company, and they've done a number of fundraising rounds, and it's all very structured and things such as that. And it's tough work, but for them, it was absolutely a necessity. And they got a lot of expert advice from other entities. Charlie, what's that one?
Elevate Ventures.
Oh, Elevate Ventures.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Yeah, and stuff like that. So I didn't know where you were in your process. Self-funding is fantastic. However, at some point, unless you're independently super wealthy, I was just wondering. So that was one of my, Charlie's listening in as well. And we just have a good interest in a lot of that angle. We're both bankers, but from our we're in banking, and so we like finance stuff.
Yeah. No, we definitely are talking about how to do that.
Okay.
Laura, I saw on your Facebook page that you had a couple of like pop-up events and different things where you take your product. Have you thought about approaching small boutiques and things like that to sell your products in, or is it all online right now?
It's all online right now. And we've talked, we've thought about the whole boutique route. The problem, and I think the challenge with that is you have to provide the inventory, and then your margins are so slim. It didn't make sense from an economic standpoint. So that's why we haven't gone that route. Now, whether we'll ever do wholesaling, I mean, that would be great if we could get into that at some point, but you know, it's been like this unique situation now where people are buying more pajamas because of the pandemic, and they're not going to bricks and mortar stores. We have gone to some events, and we've sold some, but we sell more online.
So Laura, you mentioned one setback that you had was working with the fashion designer. Are there other failures in your path, in your journey, on your journey? And what were they, and how did you learn from them?
Oh, I know there were lots of failures. There were lots of little, I think there were lots of little things. We also hired the wrong seamstress. We hired someone because someone said, hey, I know a seamstress who would be really great. And she was like, oh yeah, this would be fun to do. And because all she does is formal attire, and she was a very, very nice lady and does beautiful work, but she doesn't know how to work with knits. And that was a mistake. And that cost us quite a bit of time. So just on a whim, like back to that whole, there's this organization called Makers Row that is for entrepreneurs in the fashion industry. And they're, I think, based out of, well, I think in Ohio, perhaps, but it's online. So you pay like an online fee, and then you get access to this very closed secret society of fashion. And so we did that, and we paid, I think, $35 a month or something. And that's how we found the woman in Arcadia. But then I found a guy in Chicago, and I called him, and I remember it was in August. It was in August of 18, and explained to him, you know, what we were doing. And he said, look, you've got to get to Chicago tomorrow. There's a fashion show, and you've got to be here. And so I went. Oh my God, I was like a fish out of water because I didn't know what I was doing. We didn't even have a business card. People looked at us like we were lunatics. We didn't even have a business name, I don't think, at that point. But I went there and met this guy, Jay, who used to sell men's suits to Blocks in Indianapolis with his dad. So if anyone's old enough to remember Blocks. But anyway, so then he kind of became our consultant, and we paid him to introduce us to manufacturers. So I don't know where I was going with that story.
That was a mistake you made and how you rebounded.
Yeah, I mean, we just kept asking. I mean, it went back to once something went wrong, we just kept calling people and asking questions.
Yep. This seems to be a theme in your story, that one person led to another.
It did.
And the power of a network. And you've got some people on the phone or on this Zoom call who could expand that network. So is there a way that we on this call can help you advance your goals? Is there someone you'd like to meet? How might this group step up and help you grow?
Oh, that's an awesome question. Sometimes we don't even know what we need. Like I'm like the question Jane asked, I'm like, yeah, we probably really need to talk to someone who's an expert in funding, because we don't have that kind of person. We would really love to talk to someone who understands how Amazon works, for example, and then also someone who really understands online retail with Google. Because we really like working with local people, but someone told us we need to use someone, and they're out of New York doing the Google. And I'm like, there's got to be someone locally that can help us with these Google ads, but we just don't know who. who that person is. And it has to be someone who understands our market, and it has to be someone who understands online retail.
Yep.
I think it's different than, it's just different than other industries. It's there's retail's hard.
You've really got to cut through a lot of clutter, don't you, to get to
Yes.
people, to
Yes.
get your market.
Mm-hmm.
Laura, we're about out of time. I want to just check with our group and make sure that all their questions or comments have been heard. Does anyone else have anything to share with Laura?
So I can see everybody.
I have one additional question if you have time.
Sure.
So I guess maybe you already talked about this, but what are your relative duties between yourself and your other partner, and how do you divide the work as to who does what?
So yeah, that's a good question. I knew when I was serious about wanting to do this, I knew I needed someone who had different skills than I do. And I am not a detail-oriented person. I like to come up with ideas. I have experience with the media side and the marketing, but I needed someone who could keep me focused on what needed to be done today, because I can get caught in dreaming about what's going to happen next year. And so that's one of the reasons I went to Mindy and I said, seriously, I'm going to do this. Do you want to do this with me? And I mean, we had a really serious, frank conversation about it. And because it's hard to go in business with your friends, but we divided up pretty early on who was going to do what. And she doesn't like doing speaking. And so I do the interviews, which is fine. I don't like doing fulfillment and keeping track of stuff. And she does all of that. She does the financial operations end, and I do more of the marketing end. But I do think it's really important to know who's in charge of what.
Do you have a contract?
Yes.
That's smart.
Yes, we have we have all the legal documents, and yeah,
Is it a 50-50 split?
No. Oh, well, it's not quite 50-50, but
Close.
yeah. You have to have, if you do 50-50, I don't know how you would do that.
Right.
You'd have to know who's going to make the final call if there's a disagreement.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah,
It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. Well, Laura, thank you so much for sharing your story. I am getting off this call and going to your website and thinking about my list. That is, it's exciting to hear about your journey and to recognize that that you don't have to be an expert in the field that you're passionate about. You just have to be willing to connect with the right people and learn as you go. I think it's a really great story, and I'm so pleased that you shared it with us today.
Well, thank you so much.
And thank you all for being with us today, and know that we'll be back here on December 4th, and that information will be on our website, and we'll push it out in our various channels. So have a great Friday, have a great holiday, be safe, be healthy, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.